Hi, Dave here, and I am actually going to be doing a new series, I guess, and I'm going to call it simply Artist Study, and I'm basically going to be um, going through, say, the portfolio or some selected works of a particular artist that I find appealing. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, I'm trying to actually find my own, or develop, or find or develop my kind of visual aesthetic or voice, an artistic voice, I think. And I don't know, I think, I can, just do it on my own and kind of figure it out all by myself. But I think it's going to kind of slow down my progress if I don't actually take the time to study others. So I'm going to be doing this as a way for me to kind of take away some principles that make someone's art look the way it does, and hopefully I can use that, whatever that is, and apply it in my own work. And hopefully you can find something useful as well, I guess, to if you're trying to find your own voice. I think your artistic voice, I think, this kinds of explorations of people's artwork would be very helpful. So anyway, today I'm going to take a look at Mikhail Borulko. Now, I'm obviously pronouncing his name wrong. He is a Russian concept artist and illustrator from Chelyabinsk, Russia. Obviously, I'm not pronouncing that right as well, but yeah. And by the way, the links will be in the description. And he does have an art station, and he also has a YouTube channel. And he has another YouTube video where he is featured in a different channel, and he also he was featured in Concept Art World, and he has his own kind of page. So yeah, those are basically the links that I found of Mikhail Borulko. So yeah, so for some general notes, the theme of his work is generally focused more on war, or it almost feels dystopian in nature and very death centered. And his subject is mostly about focused a lot on kind of character designs, I think, or kind of story surrounding, or where the focus is the character, I think. And he does have a lot of soldiers and warrior type of work if you check out his portfolio. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to list a kind of my kind of breakdown or notes from his portfolio. So first of all, we have a kind of a general feel of his work in terms of theme and subject, but since we're going to explore style and kind of techniques or artistic kind of, or developing the artistic voice or something like that, we are going to, or I am going to explore some of the stylistic and aesthetic elements of his work. And since he has a YouTube channel, I actually have some kind of idea of his process, of his Photoshop painting process. So before we go to the process, we do have some notes from his style or aesthetic, in terms of style and aesthetics. And what I have noticed is that his edges are actually kind of clean and very well cut, simple in fact. And as opposed to, at least for now, I generally paint with I tend to paint very messily or impressionistically or abstractly. And yeah, so his style of being cut edged, or his edges being his edges being clean is something that I think is something that I could work on as well, because I think I'm just avoiding it because it's hard or something. So yeah, so I did notice that he does have some clean and simple edges, and because of his clean and simple edges, he does have some strong and kind of compact silhouettes or shapes, especially for his characters. And if you kind of block out the excuse me, the entire silhouette of his character, it's usually very, well, not very simple, but it's simple. It's not overly complicated with multiple kind of extrusions or something like that. It's just kind of, it's simple and very clear. His rendering style within those shapes is also very interesting because it's actually very tight and very tight, and it's not as messy, and it helps his edges being clear, his silhouettes being clear, plus his rendering style being kind of precise, especially in places where, or in areas of the painting where he wants them to be. I think his end artwork presents a very clear message, and there's not much to kind of think about, and it's more of like in your face, this is what it is. So yeah, so another I need to drink some water. So another thing that I've noticed in his work is that his colors are actually not as saturated, and it's almost in the side of being desaturated. And I mean, he does have a few pieces that are kind of bright and stuff. Now, I'm not sure if it's because of his subject matter, being dark, this dystopian war centered or death kind of centered. But yeah, maybe it is. So yeah, it's not as saturated. And if you look at his rendering when it comes to colors, he does have a lot of variety in his colors, and it's not, I think, even when he paints something that's simple, because of that variety in color, it's actually kind of interesting, or it makes something simple even more interesting. And by that change of color, I think it's more about the hues. He has a lot of change concerning the hues when it comes to the variety of color. So yeah, so those are some kind of style or aesthetic notes that I've taken note of. And yeah, it's actually very I'm definitely I'm not sure how I'm going to approach this thing, because I feel like I need to do a kind of general study of an artist's portfolio, and then from there I can take some notes, and from there I can do some kind of demo work where I try and apply some of these concepts from the artist, and then from there I can do a kind of overview of kind of a summary of not only the artist's work but some of my own demos. So I think I'm going to approach this kind of artist study series that way. God. Sorry. So anyway, yeah, when it comes to his process, I recommend you check out his YouTube videos. Now he doesn't speak English, so I mean I'm not sure if he doesn't, but in one of the videos he was featured on, it was a kind of Russian channel, I think. And so yeah, I couldn't understand anything, but thankfully there's an actual video where he kind of a live stream kind of video where he was kind of talking while painting. So I did kind of get a general feel of the way he paints his work. And in his own channel, he doesn't do voiceovers, but the time lapses are enough to kind of give you a gist of how he approaches his work. So yeah. So by the way, for his process, he does use a lot of layers, and I would say in a sectioned manner, meaning it's deliberate. Let's say the character has its own layer, the background has its own layer, and if he wants to paint, say, a tank in the background, then he'll make another layer for that tank. So it has that kind of sectioned way of layering. And I think that's how most of us would approach using layers. And he's also not overly tight about the way he uses this kind of layering system, because I've seen other artists where they get very tight with the way they use the system. For example, they will use some kind of lasso tool to kind of shape in a certain, a castle in the background, and then they will simply paint within that original shape, and I don't know, it's kind of limiting for me, and it's too constrained or too tight. And yeah, so what he'll do, aside from having those sectioned specific layers, is that he will have other layers where he does this kind of overall kind of paint over, where it's not necessarily specific to one area, it's kind of a general face or a layer of paint to kind of further refine a specific area or something like that. And he also has a kind of a go-to brush. I think it's his favorite brush. It's kind of a square, it almost has a kind of watercolor like texture, and I do have a similar brush. I think it's kind of using the linear height as a setting in the kind of brush settings, and so yeah, I think it helps with his painting process in that it helps him save time. He doesn't have to use a lot of brushes, or yeah. And generally his painting is it's opacity driven, where it's focused on a build up of multiple strokes, and it's not entirely opacity driven. I mean, it's mostly opacity driven, but he does have instances where he uses the pen pressure of his pen. Oh yeah, no shit. And it can kind of create a quick kind of opaque spot for a specific part of the painting. Fuck. So yeah, those are some notes when it comes to the general idea of his. I'm just fixing my mic here. So those are some original. Oh fuck. So those are some fucking mic. So those are some of my personal breakdowns or notes from his portfolio, some general notes, some aesthetic style notes, and a few process notes. So now we are going to go through some of his can't sit properly. Fuck me. There you go. Alright. So right now we are going to go to we are going to explore some of his portfolio pieces, and I've picked them, and they're kind of selected for this specific episode of artists studying artists, and I'm centered on the aesthetic, I guess. And yeah, so gosh, I easily get dehydrated when doing voiceovers. So now we have this piece, and what we're going to do is we're going to take note of the previous notes, and we'll see how that applies to his work. Now we have a lot of selected works here, so I think we should get to it. So here we have this piece. It's a soldier here, and as you can see, if we have the pen tool here or the brush tool, the edges of this character is actually it's it's clean. It's very sharp, and it's there's no ambiguity or vagueness when it comes to the silhouette of this specific character, right? And he focuses most of his rendering on this specific thing, whatever this thing is. And even though his subject matter is kind of simple, if you focus on the silhouette, it's just a guy in a uniform. But first of all, the scale of this guy. So this guy is some kind of giant, I guess, and that's, I think, what makes it interesting, And I don't know, maybe this is death or something, walking through some kind of war-torn area. But yeah, if you focus on the rendering, say in this part, and you just focus in, you can see this kind of variety of values, right? The way he renders, at least what I've noticed in his work, the way he renders fabrics, some mechs, even fire, smoke, and clouds, it does stand out to me, and it's very appealing. Like, I am inspired in a way to kind of try his, or apply that kind of awesome into my own work. So yeah, so you can definitely see an expertise in rendering, fabrics and stuff. So here is a different piece, Cambodia, 1976, and again, if you look at the big shapes, right? The big shapes. It is super simple, right? This guy in the background, another giant, right? Simple. His tank is simple. These silhouettes are actually super average and not exactly, overly complicated and intense, right? You can see that. But what makes it cool, or what compensates, I guess, that simplicity, is the way he renders what's inside the shape. And even within the bigger shape, he has like smaller shapes, a shape within a shape. I was gonna say shapeception, but you know, it's a bad joke. Anyway, so again, I think from his work alone, I can kind of understand how you don't have to be overly complicated in your designs or storytelling, for as long as you can kind of balance out the complexity, not just what am I trying to say? Based on his work alone, I can kind of understand how you don't have to complicate everything. Gosh, anyway. So here again, look at this guy. Simple shape. Right here, simple shape. And then within that shape of this soldier warrior guy, it's well rendered. And again, look at this kind of fabric thing. It's well done, So yeah, it's well done. And again, his rendering style is it's not even that complicated, in that he's not using a variety of brush strokes, and it's very clean and simple, but well done. And you'll notice in this piece it's actually kind of saturated, right? This is not his average kind of theme, but again, it's awesome. So again, this is another piece of his, and it's kind of bright, I understand, but even though it's bright and not typical in his work, again, the rendering is pretty cool. It's very clean for the most part, and the shapes are very clear. And another thing that I've noticed in his kind of process is that he does use the Gaussian blur sometimes for, say, the background or some kind of smoke, or to indicate some kind of motion. So yeah, awesome. So again, it's soldier character focused, and I think these are some designs of something. And again, if you zoom out, look at the shapes of these figures. It's not that complicated, very simple, but the way he does the insides of the figures, it's very impressive. And it's not even that finished, it's more of these are more of sketches, I believe, but they're rendered enough that you can kind of tell what they're about. And the background is actually kept quite simple, so yeah. So this is actually, I found a piece. No, he doesn't do a lot of covers, but apparently he did a cover of War for the Planet of the Apes by Boom Studios, Walker Scharf, and Wordy, And again, look at these shapes, very simple shapes. Even the hand of this gorilla is very simple. And look at the way he did the fingers. It's just a sausage within sausages, right? So his work is also very shape centered, and yeah. And again, look at the way he does the clouds, which I've noticed in his work. It's not very sure. It does have a nice shape, but it's very fluid, and it feels very natural to what a cloud should feel like. Obviously it's not a realistic cloud, but the way it moves, the way it's painted, makes it feel like it's a freaking cloud, you know? So yeah, awesome rendering, So this is a smaller piece, and again, you can see here, if I may, he did the blur thing again, and here, the blur thing. So I think I suggest making some kind of action in Photoshop to kind of help save time when creating a blur effect, a Gaussian blur. He does use the Gaussian blur effect for some areas. Oh God, excuse me. Pardon me. So here he did this kind of 3D, classic 3D effect where there's some kind of cyan and pink, which is not normal for his work, but yeah. But again, look at the soldier, very simple silhouette, and within the silhouette, the rendering is top notch, right? Oh God. Right here we have a tank. Now it's not character focused, but he does do a lot of mechs and stuff like that, and I think he has a pretty good visual library of what a tank, especially tanks. He likes painting tanks and vehicles and such. And simple shape, again, simple shape, and then within that shape there are other shapes, and then everything else is just rendered beautifully. Now here I think he did some photo bashing, and for me, I do use photo bashing, or I try, but I'm trying to avoid that for now, because I feel, or I've noticed when I do my own kind of artwork, I'm too heavily reliant on the photos, and sometimes, or most of the time, the photos actually dictate the way the art will look like in the end, and I'm not in control, and that's a bad thing. So I think it's because I'm skipping the essential idea of actually painting and photo bashing over that painting. And again, well rendered. And he kept the kind of ground very vague, and it's kind of a nice way to kind of guide the eye and focus, and help you focus just on this tank, right? So here again, he did use the blur effect, Gaussian blur, for this soldier in his own layer, and I can tell photo bash right here. But yeah, and in the background there is some kind of blur, I think. And this is again well done. The background is kind of blurred, and the overall shape super simple. There you go, there you go, there you go. And within that shape is a collection of well rendered subject matter. Oh, I didn't notice that there are two samurai guys in the bottom. Yeah. Again, the skull, very focused on death. So it's a kind of SWAT team samurai dead guy who's part vampire in Japan, because the blossoms and the samurai, I think. So yeah. So here, this is so cool. The head is like really long. Yeah. And again, notice the general shape, very simple, but the way it is painted, the way the in this you know what, you get my point. This is a cool piece, very nice piece. Oh, this is a kind of a, I don't know, a Death Reaper. Oh, sorry, a Grim Reaper, but white. Awesome idea for a crown. So yeah, again, the way he does smoke, very simple. Even his smoke has some kind of shape and character, right? So yeah, the most rendered part is obviously the character, and again, very well rendered. You know, these packs of ammo. So anyway, super cool. And again, this is typical of his work. It's very desaturated and very, you know, war centered, you know, sometimes sad. Oh, he has some kind of barcode there, you know. And yeah, again, some blur stuff here. Now this is, again, another thing that his work kind of speaks out on. What am I trying to say? Sometimes he does this thing with the mouth. He kind of makes it very scary, and you'll see what I mean in some of his work. Again, now this is actually not as finished, but you know, death, skull, sharp teeth. So here I think is doing some kind of designs for a helmet or something. And again, the mouths, he does this thing with the mouths, kind of making it very scary and stuff. And it almost looks like a piranha, you know. Ugh. Again, well rendered, you know. So here you can actually see him do some kind of line sketch, and then kind of do a simple kind of underpainting, you know. And here he kind of painted over some kind of initial line work. So here is actually an environment. You know, he doesn't do a lot of environments unless it's for a background or something, but notice how, if I may, the shapes are simple overall, very simple, but again, focus on what's inside those shapes. It's very well rendered. Now, if it's not a kind of a shape within a shape, you know, it's usually this, where even though it's simple, the fact or fuck the way it's colored makes it complicated. For example, there's an obvious kind of difference in lighting tone right here, and you can see some blues over here and stuff like that, and there's this kind of gradation of values of tone, and yeah, it overall it's a simple shape, but the way it's rendered or the way he breaks it down within the initial or the major shape makes it more appealing. So it's kind of a lesson of how you don't have to be overly, you know, complicated in your work. And you can see this thing is the focus, you know, not the other stuff. And you can see here it's very vague, you know. It's enough, you know, it helps guide your eye to this sex. Yes. Anyway, so here he actually has a video of this painting of this speed painting in this YouTube channel. So yeah, and you'll see him use the same brush, usually the same square, brush, and he just builds up his painting over time, and there you go. And again, the motion blur, or I think it's a motion blur, motion blur. So here is another piece. I think he does have a YouTube video of this thing, and it's actually kind of bright. Now again, it's war centered in that there is a tank and a few soldiers here, and a very cute robot. Yeah. So now this is an awesome piece. Now there's a lot going on, I think. Well, not really. There's a rocket over here, some awesome sky stuff, a planet, I think, and kind of an army of mechs, perhaps. And I love the way he did this kind of excuse me. He did the lighting, very simple, and he probably did the lighting first, or maybe not. I think for a piece to be in this kind of level, you obviously need to layer your work well, and he obviously succeeds in that. And I think you can see how he kind of cleans up some of his edges by doing some kind of quick paint overs and just kind of tightening the painting as he goes. So yeah, well rendered, simple shapes, awesome smokes and clouds and fabric. I mean, look at those flags. Very well done. Oh, these are some rockets. Nice. So obviously this is some kind of war, marching something. Anyway, beautiful piece. Again, he focused most of his rendering on this guy. Now I'm assuming they're all kind of the same type of mech, but he lit this guy more, rendered it more, and it's more saturated than the other two. And I do like the thing he did here with the lighting in the background. It helps kind of connect all three of these guys together. Awesome. And the way he did the water, he kind of did a section cut of the water so you can see what's under the liquid. Again, simple silhouettes and then awesome rendering within those bigger shapes. And I think this is some kind of ship in the background, very vague. It's enough to kind of tell the story. So yeah, continuing on. Awesome rendering. It's kind of bright in the background, very red. But again, I do like the way he does the excuse me, the smoke stuff. And he did some awesome highlights here. That's enough. Gosh, my setup is very fuck. Anyway, next piece. Ooh, awesome. So this guy in the background has some kind of flamethrower. Again, the fire stuff. I mean, it's very simple the way he does them, but it's very cool and awesome. And yeah, he has some particles here, and the background is kind of vague, very vague. It's enough. And obviously, the focus is on this guy. And again, look at the arm. Freaking simple, but the way it's rendered, you know, the change of color hues is it's 100% awesome. So yeah. What's next? Gosh, I have a lot more. Oh, ho ho ho! This guy. Look at that fire! You know, if I would do this kind of thing now, I would probably just, you know, photo bash. Because, you know, I don't have the skills. I'm a bitch. For now. But eventually I want to be able to paint in these kinds of stuff. And he obviously added some kind of soft light. Maybe in the background or in just on top of the fire or something. But yeah. And you can see from afar, the focus is obviously on the head. And you can actually feel the heat, which is very awesome. Okay. So now this thing is again very war-centered, but you know, it's very complementary in that this thing isn't obviously a bomb. It's obviously, you know, a freedom bomb with some butterfly wings, you know. I'm not sure if it's trying to say something here, but I thought it's interesting. And look at these bombs in the background. I bet that he made a specific brush and added a scatter feature and just put them in their own layer, and then just, you know, did a kind of clipping mask paint over to kind of add in those white stuff. And here you can actually see where the bombs hit, and it's very well done. You know, I can actually feel the bombing, you know, the horrors and the screams of innocent children. So again, it's very soldier centered, very dark. Some kind of skull. Has, you know, two swords and shit. The background is very simple, but again, the rendering of this thing, the way the change of hues and values within the very simple silhouette is enough to amaze. So here we have a kind of, it's a military vehicle. Is that a broom? You gotta clean up those dead bodies. So yeah, again, the smoke. It's very awesome, very simple kind of flowy shape, but you can tell that it's an emanating kind of smoke. And you know, for the grass stuff, I think he may have his own brush. I think he used a kind of custom brush for the grass and stuff. But again, checking out the vehicle, very simple silhouette, and then simple shapes like the wheels and the actual body. And then the rendering, I mean, look at the variety of rendering in this bad boy. What is this? Some kind of oil painting or something. And yeah. And I think this is a excuse me, I think this is a perfect piece that kind of summarizes his style, you know. And the saturation is obviously very low in this one. The mood, the theme is dark, very Soviet-esque stuff, I think. Now here there is some saturation, but you know. Again, simple shape, well rendered, awesome. And the sky is kind of flat to me. But yeah, maybe they are in hell or something. Whoa, awesome. I mean, I love this piece, you know. He does have some skill as well in storytelling, you know. And he does it with the atmosphere and especially with his characters. So is this guy telling this guy to join the fight or to get out of here or something? I don't know. But awesome. Again, simple shapes. In fact, the background people are kind of very. He just left the kind of the gist up. He didn't even render within those shapes, but he did with this guy. So obviously, it's kind of a lesson on how we should prioritize our rendering. Awesome piece. This one is well done, even though there's a lot going on in the background. I can still tell that this is where it's at. Oh my god, these guys are kind of giants and stuff. They're bigger than the tanks, or taller at least. And he has a lot of smoke. Again, the way he does the smokes stuff. And I actually didn't see him paint in his YouTube channel. He doesn't have a video where he paints smokes and clouds, so yeah, I'm gonna have to figure that out on my own. Very cool. Very cool. So here is a simple piece. It's kind of a vehicle, simple shape, blurred background. Here again, very dystopian like. Again, look at this. Look at the way he rendered the this thing. There's some kind of reds, like the base is red. This one is green, purple, blue, purple, some greens, light green, blue, some reds, hot reds. And his color scheme is also, I think the word is analogous. If that's the word. It's very within the range of the colors are within very close proximity. Oh, he has a video of this guy in his YouTube channel. Now it's very positive, at least concerning the colors are very non-depressing. The same with this guy. So this one feels like some kind of cop. Oh, and he has a tag. A newly bought armor, or maybe a newly bought system or suit. Or maybe this thing is some kind of android or something, I don't know. But again, simple shape. But the rendering is magnifique. Awesome. Same thing. Now this guy, there's a lot of folds, I think. But again, awesome. And look at this thing, it's so well done. The way he paints fabric, you know, the folds and the garments and stuff is very professionally done. So here, again, same thing. Simple silhouettes, awesome rendering, some very nice background lighting, very soft. So this one is a yeah. Anyway, again, dark theme, death. Their heads look like kind of missile heads. Poor guy. What's that? Is that a hand? Or some kind of organ? Probably organ harvesting amidst the war. Again, it's very dark overall, but the rendering is done. Well done. Blurred background again. So here again, he does this fire thing. It's very simple, but it's well done. I'm going to be trying and attempting the way he does them. This one is kind of saturated, and but it's still war, explosions, death, destruction. So this one is some kind of cop, android, robot thing. I mean, it's so fat, and it's so like the overall shape is simple. Oh shit, that's a bad head. And I bet he used the marquee tool for this one, the circle marquee tool for this part, especially, And then the gun is like that, very simple. But the rendering within that, the shapes within that major shape, awesome, nice. So this guy is probably some kind of leader, just inspiring the mindless obeying soldiers to carry out orders, because they're just following orders, right? Now the face fuck. The face is actually kind of simple and not as rendered compared to this guy, but yeah. Okay, so we actually have a lot more of selected works to go over, so I'm going to have to fly by these awesome bits of artwork. You can always check out his portfolio on ArtStation and stuff. Links in the description. Again, awesome. The colors are muted, very simple, blurred background, blurred elements, simple silhouettes, well rendered within the silhouettes, blurred effects, other scratch-like effects. Now this is a kind of a compilation of like multiple characters, a tank, and some kind of mech in the background. Very well done. Blurred. This one is the overall shape is actually complicated, so this is not typical of him, but because he is awesome, it's well done. The rendering is awesome. Same for the tank and the characters. Very dark, death, blurred, simple silhouettes. This one is kind of bright, actually, very 2020 Olympic-esque. Yeah, samurai, simple shapes, blurred background. And again, the mouths, very disconcerting. Is that the word, or disconcerting? Disconcerting? This guy's fucking mad. Now look at the way he did this lava thing, or fire. Very awesome. And this guy's obviously from some kind of, underworld or something, the bad guy, and these guys are obviously, I think, aiming at this guy. Simple shapes, but well rendered. Simple shape, well rendered. The background, smokes, simple shapes. It's kind of blurred here. Well rendered on this guy. Beautiful piece. The composition, the way the lines kind of intersect, the diagonals and verticals and the horizontals. Well rendered. And again, there's some kind of story. This guy's opening the tank, seeing the survivors and, stuff. Awesome. Very dark, simple shapes, well rendered. Same. And he has some kind of missile firing. Awesome effects. Clouds, fog, blur. Oh my loud. Now the rendering is actually kind of cartoonish for this one. But oh, that's gold, I think. Oh, that's photo right there, photo bashed. Awesome. Oh, this is the king and this is his queen, slave. Kinky. He did have a YouTube video for this bad boy. He did use a different brush in the beginning, very opaque like, but and you can see it's kind of rough edged, but the essential elements are there. Blurred background, simple shape. The rendering is within the shape. Oh my lord. Blurred background, the focus is on this guy. The way he does fire. Awesome. Oh. Perhaps this is some kind of negotiation. Zombie? Wait, ghost caught me. Okay. And it's also very focused on his lighting. It's usually focused on one area, and the rest is usually dark or blurred. Wow. Now this one is actually kind of messy to me. There's a lot of colors, a lot of things going on, but it's still awesome. Dice array. So yeah, he has a few characters here. Simple shapes, well done, well rendered. So he did have a face. He doesn't usually do faces. I've noticed he usually covers them with some kind of helmet or something. And again, the teeth stuff, the mouth, very dark. So here he has a face, but it's pixelized. Oh, my neck. Very bright. And this guy is dead. Now this is beauty. Now obviously it's very positive. I mean, it's not positive, but it's quite saturated or very colorful. It's almost like a poster or something. But yeah, this is some kind of controlled bio. I'm not sure if this is a suit or a kind of android, but I mean, look at the butt. It's well done, very well rendered, and I think this is some kind of rake brush, or maybe it's some kind of texture. But yeah, it's well done. And again, the blurring of the bottom legs. Oh no shit, legs are in the bottom, dumbass. But yeah, this is my favorite. Obviously. Again, same dark, some blurs, deliberate lighting. Excuse me. Again, very death-centered, very war, dystopian future. So this one is a... I'm not sure if it's kind of blessing the place, before the massacre happens or something. Oh my lord. Again, again, the mouth, the teeth, And is that a child? Fuck, man. Dark shit, man, dark. Oh, this one is bright. He actually has a kind of a breakdown of this character. Oh, here it is. So at first he started with a very vague silhouette, the gray one, and then maybe did some simple sketch line work, and then painted probably below it, and then painted on top of it, and then cleaned up even more. Look at the change or the variety of tones. And then from there continued that, and you can see how he did this fold right here. It wasn't there before, so he added it here. So you can tell that it's kind of pinched in this area. And then so variety of tones, finally variety of color. Oh. Yep. It's kind of saturated, but the character is not as saturated. Oh, I did this piece already, I think. Ooh, again, very dark. This guy's jaw is kind of mechanized. Again, he's probably from hell, you know. Very dark. You got some blurs here. Simple silhouette. Well rendered. Oh, look at that. Look at the way he did the packs of C4. I don't know. Ooh, it's a crow from hell. Well rendered. Well done. And if you zoom in, it's actually not that complicated, but he paints enough to kind of tell the story. Oh, I did this thing. Oh, fuck. Blur. Again with the teeth. And obviously a kind of crown of thorns. This is not Jesus. Oh, this one is actually kind of clean in the sense that he doesn't have a lot of color variety here in terms of hues. Very saturated sky. Lots of blur stuff, effects. Oh, this one is awesome. Look at this bad boy. And you can tell design-wise, he's kind of using the same shape elements. You know, the squarish stuff, the very angular kind of forms. And yeah, it makes sense. And again, simple silhouette. Very basic, but the way it's rendered, my friends. Even the foot is like a trapezoid or something. Fuck. Oh gosh, 1 hour. Fuck. It's been an hour. Again, awesome. Oh, I think this is some kind of a bullets flying. You know, some kind of cannon. And it's kind of flying. No, this thing, I think this is some kind of creature that is crashing currently, because you can tell the way he did the lines and the blur effects that this thing's currently in the process of crashing. Oh, so sun. It's a very dark death. Demon. So oh my god. So this wolf thing is feasting on this guy. And these crows are probably... Is this guy alive? Or maybe they're having a conversation. with the crow. Simple shape of the tank, but variety of strokes, variety of rendering colors and stuff. Now check this out. Look at the way he did the clouds. It's very awesome. Even the clouds tell some kind of story. And this sword is awesome. And the waves, very simple, well done. Death. Again, this boss even has a fucking mouth with mandibles like the predator. That's not a predator. Are those teeth in the side? Fuck. And these are obviously eyes or something. So dark. Again, the fire is very simple, and the smoke, but gets the job done. Oh, I did this thing. Oh, here, same clouds, awesome. Grass, probably a grass brush, custom brush. Simple silhouette, blurred clouds. Even added some soft lights here for some highlights, and he actually achieved the rusty effect. Very interesting. So yep, simple shape, simple shapes, well done. Dark. Composition wise, very awesome. You know, it's like there's this thing here and then there's this thing here. The scale of these two things kind of help in compositions. Now this piece is amazing. It's kind of a poster or something. And the translation of this thing is in his art station, I believe. He did a translation of what this thing means. Niet. Sikabliat. When it comes to the overall shape, it's super simple. The background is very simple. But look at the background, there is this change of hues. Look at the character himself, or herself. There's a change of hues. There are greens, reds, blues. Even some splatter oranges, right? Wear a mask. Oh, again with the teeth. Hello. Now this guy, it's obviously not character centered. It's a ship, and I think it's there's some kind of mountain in the background and some structures embedded on that mountain. It's a pretty high mountain, and the clouds are kind of midway the mountain range, and this thing is sort of just cruising along. And look at this thing, it's so simple. It's a simple shape, but the way, see this is some kind of red gray, and then a green, and then some kind of gray green, light green. The sky is awesome, very simple, almost sketch-like. And even the horse head is like an origami, horse. But it's awesome. Oh, I did this guy. Again, this is the one I'm talking about. What the fuck? Very dark. It's fucked up, man. Even the nose is weird. Hi. No, this guy is awesome. you can, in this piece, you can definitely tell the variety of hue changes, right? Yellow, purple, or pink, green, red, blue, dark blue, purple, brown. And it's actually kind of vague, or not as defined, but it's enough. At least in comparison to this tank, you know, this your eye is led to this character instead of the tank. Again with the smokes, blurred background. Obviously some kind of headless guy. Maybe he is trying to tell a story here, but I'm not sure what. Again, simple shape, but the way he rendered this fold right here, or the fabric, it's even simple, but it's well done. You know, it's very filled up. And we can end with this piece. Now he did use some kind of a texture brush here, probably in color dynamics, in the settings, brush settings, color dynamics. He added some changes in hue, probably. So the way he did the fire, very simple but well done. You can feel the heat. And this guy is fucking dead. I think he's still burning or something. And you can tell it's a kind of skeleton along with this guy. And his work also shows that your work doesn't have to be super refined. You know, just, you know, refine it enough in areas that matter. I think this guy is some kind of mech, right? And yeah, even the fire has texture. So anyway, I think we're going to end the review of selected works here, and from here, the next video would probably be an overview, because I will be doing some kind of demos or some kind of applications of these of these concepts from this guy and applying it in my own work, seeing how it will affect my style or something like that. And I will be doing a demo work, maybe a few demos, and then after doing them, I can kind of do another video where I can kind of show how I applied. Well, shit, what am I trying to say? Because I want to be able to do some demos, kind of a tutorial, do the demos first, explore the techniques myself first, and then do a demo or demos, and then do a tutorial of it, or a kind of voiceover format of those demos. And I think I could post it on Gumroad. I'm thinking of making it a kind of subscription basis, and then I can do a kind of time-lapsed version of all the demos along with a kind of summary review of this guy in the next YouTube video. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So hopefully you enjoyed this artist study of Mikhail Borulko. Yeah, we'll see how the next video turns out. And I am planning to make a Gumroad subscriptions where you could download the specific demos where I can do kind of more in-depth walkthroughs or voiceovers of me painting. And yeah, And by the way, you can buy my concept art brushes in my Gumroad as well, and they're updated forever. You know, once you buy those concept art brushes, when I make an update, you will get those freaking updates, lifetime updates. So by the way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.